Okay, good morning, everybody. I would like to call to order the first accessibility committee meeting ever. I'm very excited to have you all here. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territories of the Shuswap First Nation and the Huipacheska First Nation. I also want to advise you and anybody watching that this meeting is being recorded. It's also being live streamed on the Regional District website through YouTube. For the folks in the room, I'm just going to give some safety briefing. There's an emergency exit out here. If you do use that door, it's going to ring the alarm. There's also another exit out this door, as well as where you first came in through the lobby. There is an accessible washroom in our meeting room here. There's also additional washrooms in the lobby where you walked in. There's coffee, tea, water, and there's some snacks. So please help yourself if you like. We will take a break about halfway through the meeting for more coffee. So first, we are going to start with introductions. And what I would like each person to do is introduce yourself, but also just highlight why you wanted to join this committee. I think it's a very important committee. So for myself, I'm Heather Zenner. I'm the Manager of Administrative Services for the Regional District. And I'm a part of this committee because we are legally obligated to have this committee and to develop an accessibility plan. But having said that, I'm very excited about this committee in particular. I'm excited about the interest from all of you in participating, and I'm looking forward to improving accessibility in our communities, but also here at the Regional District in my workplace. And so I will pass it over to you, Tammy. You can introduce yourself. I do need to remind everybody that you need to use your microphone, so press the button to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jamie Tatry. I've joined the committee because I'm passionate about accessibility in general. Have spent a lot of years working with individuals with disabilities and chronic health condition. I think I just have like a lot that I can bring to the ARCD in terms of accessibility. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what work we can do.
Good morning. I'm Donna Monteith. I'm the Director of Corporate Services with the City of Port Alberni. And so I'm the staff liaison between the committee on behalf of the city. I'm actually really excited that the city is partnering with the ACRD on this project. We would be drawing from all of the same people anyway, and we're all part of the same community in my mind. So this is really exciting to me. So I oversee corporate services, legislative services, as well as community safety and bylaw enforcement. And just on a personal note, my brother actually has cerebral palsy, so very familiar with some of those kinds of physical challenges within the town, especially sidewalks, because he's always tripping over the curbs. But happy to be here.
I'm Kristen Kerdonahue. I'm the assistant for the ACRD. I'll be the administrative support for this committee. I'm really looking forward to seeing things from a different perspective.
Hi, my name is Cindy Solda, and I'm a city councilor. I'm representing the city on behalf of the council. And I've been on accessibility committees that the city has put together for many, many years that in the past. And I've worked with seniors, and you walk down the sidewalks, our sidewalks, we have a lot of issues, and and you can tell by Donna's size there that yes, we do. And so there's a lot of issues. I mean, I've had accessibility mobile problems before. I mean, I have 2 knee replacements, and I have a shoulder replacement. So I've been rebuilt. So having accessibility is really important, not just for me, but for other people in our community, like people who have visual problems, people on motor scooters. When you watch a motor scooter try to move on a sidewalk, and it's such a small sidewalk, and they're like this almost, it's pretty scary. So we want to make some improvements in our community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rainey O'Connor. I work at Canadian Mental Health in Port Alberni. I also have a chronic health condition. And I'm here because not all disabilities are seen. And I kind of just want to put that out there. I'm excited to be part of this. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nicole Wisselman. I'm the Executive Director of the Port Alberni Association for Community Living. I've worked with people with various abilities for over 30 years. And we're an accredited organization also. So we've been doing accessibility plans and planning for a long time. And as such, I also have the opportunity to do accreditation surveys internationally, mostly in North America. So get to see some best practices in other jurisdictions. So I'm hoping that that experience will help to bring some ideas forward to this committee. It's really great to be here.
Hi, I'm Amber Sabrinson. I'm new talent, so Tisha and Ukulele, and I have a lot of credit illnesses, and just really excited that the city or E30 is looking to be less ableist, more inclusive, not just like the sidewalks, but like the invisible thing, right? Because it's everywhere. I'm really glad to be here.
Good morning, ladies. First time I ever been to a meeting, there's no men. That's nice. My name is Helen. I'm from Tishat. I'm a Hikutaksu. And I was so excited when I got the phone call saying I was appointed to this committee. I'm looking forward to meeting and working with everyone and those ladies sitting in their lounges at home. But I'm grateful. I've worked in some capacity with people with disabilities. And I know a lot of my people live in urban settings all over the island and are troubled by some kind of disability. So I understand and know what they're going through. And hopefully we can contribute something, improve their lives.
Thank you, everyone. And so we'll go online next. Deanna, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Deanna Spencer. I've been an employment counselor in Port Alberni for the last, I think it's going on 16 years. I've worked with many different people, including people with disabilities. I myself got diagnosed with MS in 2005. And my mobility just got bad in the last probably 10 years. I went from using a cane to a walker to walking crutches, and now in a wheelchair when I'm out and about. And I will tell you, I am so grateful for this committee because our town, I'm telling you, it needs some serious makeovers as far as accessibility goes. There's a lot of places and our sidewalks and everything that are just not accessible for people in wheelchairs, in scooters. I can pick out a couple of places I can think of right now. So I'm really excited to work with everybody on making our town more accessible for everyone.
Great, thanks, Deanna. Director Siga, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Veda Siga. I'm the Director for Area C of the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. My background is nursing. I'm very committed to ensuring that marginalized populations can be included in the fabric of the society because it just makes it so much richer. And so, yeah, I'm really interested in working with this committee. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Director Siga and Director Solda, do you want us to refer to you as director? No? Okay.
Not me.
Okay.
I'm Veda. Thanks.
Okay. And next, we have our consultant, Kara and Haley. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
Yeah, sure. My audio and my camera are not going to sync up because I have to be on two different devices. But anyways, hello, Kara Wilkie. I'm in Toronto, but you'll hear more about us as we go, but we are accessibility consultants, and so work with large numbers of different organizations and municipalities, help figure out both how to have meaningful conversations about accessibility and kind of identify what are some key improvements that will be most impactful, and then to make those plans to be able to execute those. And then, of course, to help organizations actually do those things, which is the even more important part, but is sometimes feels like it'll be, once you've got a good plan to work forward on, it'll be hopefully a bit more straightforward. My personal background, I don't identify as a person with a disability, but I grew up with my mom having MS around me. So Deanna, much of what the story that you told is very aligned with my own personal, not my own experience, but my mom's experience growing up with that. And I often describe myself as being a very confident and loud 12-year-old doing built environment accessibility audits at gas stations and truck stops across the country as we were on road trips. So you can imagine me standing very confidently telling people to not come into the bathroom. That was me across the country as a 12-year-old.
My name's Haley, so I work for Left Turn, Right Turn as a senior accessibility specialist. And in terms of the work that I've done, much like Kara said, we work on accessibility planning and support for organizations across Canada of various sizes and nature. I recently had the pleasure of working with some other communities in British Columbia and with their accessibility advisory committees. So kind of helping to develop that relationship between the committee and the municipality to have proactive and meaningful accessibility planning work take place. So I'm looking forward to serving a similar role, hopefully here, as we work to develop our relationship and get the committee going. It's a pleasure and an honor to actually be with the committee from its inception so that we can really get to know one another. For myself, I live with a mental health disability. I have bipolar disorder, and I also have a husband who's a deaf sign language user and a daughter who is autistic. And so we have a diverse range of needs within our own household. And so it impacts not only the professional work that I do, but the personal experiences that I have navigating my own community day to day. And so it's a pleasure and a privilege to listen to your stories and your feedback to help build a more accessible community for you to live, work, and play in.
Thank you. And Kayla, are you there as well?
Yes, sorry, it was taking me a second to get my camera working. Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Hunt. I use she, her pronouns. I am also an accessibility specialist with LTRT, working on this project. Like Haley mentioned, the other municipalities on Vancouver Island, I was also working on those projects with Haley quite closely. So getting to know the island a little bit better has been a really, really fantastic opportunity. And getting to know just kind of these smaller communities and stuff has been super great too. I'm also a person with lived experience of disability. I have ADHD, and I also have some intersectional lived experience as a Black woman with ADHD. I'm also in Toronto. Yeah, and I'm just going to be here taking notes today, but very lovely to meet you all.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that we did engage the services of Left Turn, Right Turn because myself and Donna were not accessibility professionals, and we really wanted to have a meaningful experience for this committee, and we really wanted to start off on the right foot and develop a strong accessibility plan. So that's why we've engaged these professionals. Like they did mention, they are in Ontario, but Kara was here a few weeks ago and we did a tour around the Alberni Valley to do brief accessibility surveys at several of the city facilities, as well as this building here, as well as some of our fire departments. So we're very excited to have Left Turn, Right Turn with us on this project. Okay, and so the first order of business for today is to conduct an election for a chairperson of this committee and a vice chairperson of this committee. So the chairperson administers the meeting, so they keep the flow of the meeting going on, and they may also act as spokesperson for this committee. The commitment is for a one-year term, and then the vice chairperson steps in if the chairperson is absent. So the chairperson can be anyone in this room except for myself and Donna and Kristen and our consultant. So it can be any one of the volunteers, or it can be Cindy or Veda. So I'm going to call for nominations in a minute. So please think about it if this is something that you are interested in doing. If this is the first time you've been a chairperson of a committee, we will certainly help you along. It would be a good opportunity if this is something that you're interested in. So I will call for nominations for a chairperson for the Accessibility Committee. You may self-nominate yourself or you can nominate somebody else. Any nominations? Okay, so Helen has nominated Cindy Solda. Cindy, would you accept the nomination? Okay, thank you. Is there any other nominations for chairperson? Okay, there being no further nominations, I declare Cindy Solda as chairperson for the Accessibility Committee for 2024. Okay, and next we will conduct the election for a vice chairperson. And again, this is just to step in if Cindy is away. So are there any nominations for vice chairperson? Okay, so Nicole has nominated herself as vice chair. Are there any other nominations? I'm not seeing any. So Nicole will elect you as vice chairperson for the committee. So Cindy, I will turn it over to you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
All right, thank you, everyone. And so we'll go to the next item is the approval of agenda. Somebody want to move that? Okay, Nicole, and second? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so just let me get to the approval of the agenda. Okay. Declarations. So conflicts of interest. Maybe that can be explained what that would mean.
Yeah, so if there was an agenda item where you felt you could personally benefit from the discussion, you would want to declare a conflict of interest and excuse yourself from that conversation. So if there ever comes a time where you feel like you have a close connection to one of the agenda items where you could potentially benefit, then just maybe discuss that with me ahead of time or the chairperson, and we can exclude you from that conversation.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's go to discussion. Terms of reference. Heather, go for it.
Thank you. So as this is our first committee, I did really want to take a few minutes to go through the terms of reference, as I think it's important to really understand what this committee has been established for. So it's been established in accordance with the Accessible BC Act to support the regional district and the city of Port Alberni in developing an accessibility plan, but also to outline strategies to identify, remove, and prevent any barriers faced by people with disabilities. So this is a partnership between the regional district and the city. As Donna mentioned, we wanted to form one committee. We didn't want the city to form a committee and the regional district to form a committee because we were pulling from the same pool of folks in the community. So we really wanted to partner and really wanted to improve accessibility as a whole. So for the city as well as all of the rural areas. So the Accessibility Committee is a standing committee of the ACRD board. So it's going to be a long-term committee. It will carry on into the future. And it's really to cooperatively advance accessibility options throughout the region. The committee will provide the board of directors with regular ongoing updates. The scope of the work includes assisting to identify barriers to individuals or those interacting with the regional district or the city of Port Alberni. This could be at one of our facilities or engaging in one of our services. The committee will advise and make recommendations on options to remove and prevent barriers. And then it's really important to understand that this committee is an advisory committee, so it's not a decision-making authority. This committee will be making recommendations to the regional board and to the city of Port Alberni, and then those city council and regional district board of directors are the decision-making authorities. So this committee will help the development of the accessibility plan. The plan has to be reviewed and updated every 3 years, so this committee will be involved in that. We'll receive any feedback on the plan and making recommendations on how to eliminate barriers. We'll be providing advice on identifying, eliminating, preventing barriers in relation to employment, delivery of services, built environments, information and communication, transportation, and procurement, and review progress in our accessibility plan. The membership can hold up to 9 voting members. Currently, we have 6 volunteer members, and we were legislated to have the majority of the committee being persons who self-identify as having a disability or supporting those with disabilities. And we must have at least 1 person who identifies as Indigenous. We must have 1 ACRD director and 1 City of Port Alberni councillor. So we'll always maintain that membership. If one of you would like to step down, we will fill that role with another volunteer. We recognize that authentic representation matters. Your lived experience is yours uniquely, and you aren't speaking on behalf of every person with a disability. Members on this committee will serve a term for 3 years, and the board can remove members from the committee. It's very unlikely, but if you do want to resign, you would provide written notice to Cindy or myself. Non-ACRD members of the committee will be compensated at $85 per accessibility committee meeting. So I wanted to highlight that this is unique to this community. This is the only committee where we pay volunteer members. We really wanted to acknowledge and appreciate your lived experience. So it is a small token of our appreciation for you sharing in this committee. Kristen is going to talk about how to claim that funding next. So we've selected the chair, and that will happen at the beginning of every year. These meetings are generally held on a quarterly basis or at the call of the committee chairperson. I did state in the terms of reference that the first year we will have more frequent meetings because we do need to develop our accessibility plan. So we do have meetings scheduled on April 9th and May 7th. But after that, we anticipate getting back on a quarterly schedule. Quorum is having at least having more than 50% of the members present. So we do have quorum today because everyone is here, which is great. The meetings will be held in accordance with our regional district procedures bylaw. The first meeting is including an orientation overview of this committee. We will hold all of these meetings in a hybrid format to allow for in-person attendance and virtual meeting attendance. So it's completely up to you if you would like to attend in person or if joining via Zoom is better for you. All of our meetings are open to the public. So you may see the public at some point sitting behind us watching, or they may be watching online via YouTube. The chairperson will act as a spokesperson when responding to the media. So if you ever get a question from the media, please just direct them to Cindy Solda or myself, and we can arrange an interview. So the ACRD elected representative will report to the ACRD board. So that's Veda, and then Cindy is the City of Port Alberni elected representative, and she will report to the City Council on the activities of the committee. Any recommendations that come from this committee must be adopted by the committee and then presented to the ACRD board. And that would happen through a staff report written likely by myself. And if it was going to the City of Port Alberni, it would be Donna writing a staff report. We'll share all of the accessibility committee minutes with the City of Port Alberni. All of our minutes, once they're adopted, will show on our website. They'll also be presented to our board and council agendas. Ultimately, the Port Alberni City Council and ACRD board will determine how they implement the committee's recommendations. It is expected that there'll be many recommendations that come up through our accessibility plan. Some will likely be implemented in the short term. Some may be grant dependent, so on the longer term. And resources. So the regional district will provide administrative support through Kristen for preparing agendas, coordinating research and reports, recording of minutes, ensuring minutes are forwarded to all members. And then ACRD staff or contracted resources will provide advice and professional assistance to the committee when preparing reports to the board. And so Left Turn, Right Turn will be guiding us through the development of our accessibility plan. And then financial requests to support the development implementation of an accessibility plan will be submitted to the board and city for their consideration and approval. As a regional committee, requests may be made to each participating public sector organization for funding of the activities where common interests exist. And then grant funding will be pursued where appropriate. And then the city and the regional district are each responsible solely for the recommendations that they choose to implement for their organization. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions on the terms of reference.
Anybody have questions on the terms of reference? Yes, Helen, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I get used to this. On my page for number 5.2, I'm curious to know, it says to remove any member under what circumstances there, and also how much notice is required if you're going to resign.
The notice, if you're unable to attend, you can just let us know. There isn't a requirement to provide a certain amount of days notice. But as far as the board removing any committee member, I have never seen that happen. I think it would be pretty unusual circumstances. I can't think of what it would be, but probably some controversy. It's just a standard statement that's in all of our terms of reference in case the board has different ideas than a committee member. But I have never seen that implemented.
Do you have a follow-up question, Helen? Do you have any other questions?
Sorry. 9.3. I'm trying to understand. Say, will City Council and Accurate Board will independently determine how to implement recommendations? I need to understand it.
Yeah. So it's just highlighting that the city council is their own government and the regional district is their own government. So recommendations from this committee will go to both of those organizations, but it'll be up to the city council for them to decide what they do in the city. And it'll be up to the ACRD to decide what they do in the regional areas. So we're two separate governments. The recommendations need to be considered by each of those governments.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Donna, did you have something to say? I saw that.
Thank you, Councillor Solda. Just in regards to 5.2, removing a committee member, it would have to be a situation probably where maybe a member is being abusive to somebody else. It would have to be something pretty outrageous for a committee member to be removed. And just regarding 9.3, what we're going to end up having at this committee level is sort of a high level accessibility committee plan, or an accessibility plan rather. So it, the report might say buildings need to be accessible for wheelchairs. And then so the city would figure out how we would implement those doorways and those features within our facilities. And the ACRD would also do the same thing through their channels. So they might be slightly different depending on the facilities or types of things that we're looking at, but that would be an example. So we're doing a high level accessibility plan here, but we have to figure out independently how we're going to implement those changes to our appropriate authorities.
Thank you, Donna. Anybody else have questions? No? Do we need to adopt this? Is that, or is it just information? Okay, good enough. So the next one is the committee members' expense forms, and that's Kristen.
Hi, everyone. As Heather mentioned, all committee members, volunteers are eligible to claim $85 remuneration per committee meeting attended. I did email out direct deposit and TV1 forms, both federal and provincial, with the agenda last week. Those have to be completed and submitted to our payroll team in order to receive payment. I have printed a few copies if anyone didn't get a chance to fill those out, or if anybody needs assistance filling those out, please just ask, I can help you. And in order to streamline the process, you don't have to send us anything. You don't have to let us know aside from those payroll forms. We have the ability, we're going to track the attendance and just submit that to payroll for you. So we'll just keep that nice and simple. Payroll is every other Thursday, so not this Thursday, next Thursday. And direct deposit is the only payment option. No checks will be issued, so those payroll forms and direct deposit forms definitely have to be received in order to get paid. And just let the administration team, myself or Heather, know if you would like to opt out of the remuneration, or if any changes need to be made to your tax forms or direct deposits.
Thank you. Any questions? So if you haven't filled those forms out, they're sitting here on the desk and you can just talk to Kristen. Okay, next, presentations. Donna.
Hello. The colors aren't looking up the same as on my screen in my office. Isn't that interesting? So welcome to the City of Port Alberni, overview of our services. We just put together a little slideshow for you. First off, we've got our fire department. Our fire department consists of over 20 fully paid career firefighters and lots of fire trucks and fancy fire halls. However, much needed. In 2022, they responded to 2,459 calls. 67% of them were medical calls. So the fire department interacts with all walks of life on a daily basis. So they put out fires, they work on fire prevention, they perform inspections, they do vehicle road rescue and fire investigations after there's been a fire. And then, as I said, a ton of medical first responder calls. Parks, Recreation, and Culture, they play an important role in shaping and preserving public spaces and cultural history. So we have, for example, the multiplex, Echo Center, Glenwood, and the museum, just to name a few of our facilities, offering a variety of programs from swimming lessons to playing hockey to youth camps and everything in between. And then Parks Operations oversees all of the parks and trail networks within the city boundaries. And our consultant did come out and perform some site visits on some of our facilities within Parks and Rec recently. There's a delay, isn't there, for the next, is there? Have to push harder. Oh, there we go. Engineering and Public Works is all in one department for us and doesn't require a ton of explanation. It's all of our streets, sidewalks, water, wastewater, and solid waste. So, of course, at the city level, we have a lot of conversations about streets and sidewalks and potholes and things like that. So that all falls under one department within the city. And then our development services department, they are responsible for the long-term planning of the community. So right now we have our official community plan underway. Lots of community engagement on that right now, and we hope to have a new OCP adopted in the fall. That plays a key role. The OCP plays a key role when we talk about accessibility and creating a balanced and livable community. So apart from that, they also do all of the zoning. They consider take in development applications, oversee subdivisions, all of the business licenses in town, and as well issuing building permits and performing building inspections. Our human resources department of 2 oversee HR. So we have approximately 230 employees of the city. So Krista, our director of human resources, she's responsible for the department. She oversees all the recruiting and retention. But she also oversees all of our professional development planning and our succession planning, working with employee relations. And then we have another fellow who does all of our safety. So he's on the occupational health and safety, and he visits all the sites to make sure that we're following work safe BC standards. And then HR also oversees, we provided some administrative support to the RCMP department as well. Corporate services, that's me. So that's a small team of 4 there. We oversee legislative services and then all of the freedom of information requests. We oversee elections and package all the agendas together for all the meetings that we're having. Some of the things that we're doing lately is last year we went to hybrid meetings to allow for more participation, so people can participate from home if they would like. And then with communications, we have our full-time communications manager, and she's already making a huge difference in terms of frequent and dedicated information to the community. And what I thought was really interesting the other day, if I can digress and tell a quick story, I bought a new laptop for myself personally, and I was writing a document at home, and I went to save it, and this thing popped up, and it asked me, it told me that my document has a couple of items that I should take a look at for accessibility, and I was really excited about that. So I clicked on them because you can get the document to read it to yourself out loud, and it needs to be able to recognize all the words as text. So I was pretty excited to see that. I tried it all out and it worked great. So I came straight to work and told everybody all about it. Okay, and then community safety as well. So we I think it was last year or late in 2022, we opened up our community safety building on 3rd. So that is social development, which consists of community policing, social development, and our bylaw services. So community policing is a volunteer run program. So you'll see people out in the community doing things like speed watch and block watch, and we're starting to organize some foot patrols as well. Social development is things like mental health and addictions, the opioid crisis. We've been doing a lot of partnerships on opioid crisis and awareness. And there's some pieces of that in terms of affordable housing and low barrier housing as well. And then we have bylaw services within that, which right now the policy in regards to bylaw enforcement tends to be more about education than leading with the ticket. So it's a nice mix of departments within community safety. And then we have a small economic development department of 1 person. Pat Beacon has been here for years and knows everybody and knows all of the businesses, but he's in charge of business attraction, business retention, economic diversification of the city, and he is our grant writer extraordinaire. And finance department does all the things to deal with money. So they're busy working on trying to get that tax rate down this morning. Just had our budget meeting last night. So all of the financial planning, all of the taxation, accounting for all the transactions, they oversee the procurement policy process as well. So if we have big requests for proposals, they go through, ultimately go through the finance department. They also oversee information technology services under that umbrella as well. So when we talk about accessibility, we talk about things like, is it easy to get into City Hall to pay a bill? Can people pay the bills online? Do they even need to show up at the city? When they show up at the city, can they get up the stairs? Or do they need to take the elevator and things like that? So, and that's it for our departments. If anybody has any questions, I'm available.
Any questions for Donna? So if you didn't know anything about the city, now you do, right? Okay, thanks, Donna. Heather, talk about the ACRD.
Okay, thank you. I thought I would share a little bit about the regional district and just sort of give you some background on what a regional district is, because I feel like it's confusing to some people. People more understand municipalities versus regional districts. So the purpose of a regional district, it provides our rural residents with an effective form of local government, while also representing municipal and First Nation residents on regional issues. So it's the local government for electoral areas, and we're responsible for providing basic services such as water systems and volunteer fire departments. As a regional service body, we're responsible for providing regional services to multiple jurisdictions within the region. So that includes things like regional parks and airports. And it also provides local government services across the entire region, such as 911. It also lobbies senior levels of government on services that impact the whole region, such as transportation and fisheries. This is a list of all of our services, or most of our services, and I'm going to go into some of them in more detail. It is important to understand how our regional board is made up. So we have 14 members. It's a large board. We represent 13 members. So when we have our board meetings, this is the location where our board sits. Our electoral area directors, we have 6 electoral areas, each elect a director, and they represent a 4-year term. And then our municipal and First Nation members appoint their members to the board. So those are the 6 electoral areas. So Bamfield, Beaufort, Long Beach, Beaver Creek, Sprout Lake, and Cherry Creek. And then our 3 member municipalities are the City of Port Alberni, Tofino, and Ukiuit. Because City of Port Alberni has a large population, they actually have 2 members that sit on our board. And then we have the 4 treaty First Nations, so Toquat, Huea, Ukilisat, and Ichakasat tribe. They each have 1 member on the board. This is a map of our regional district. It shows each of the electoral areas, each of the municipalities, and then each of the treaty First Nations, the 4 treaties. We have many committees and commissions that support the Regional District Board of Directors in an advisory capacity. Our Chief Administrative Officer reports to the Board of Directors. And then under the Chief Administrative Officer, we have general managers and then staff. We have approximately 50 staff in the regional district. In our administration and finance departments, we have things like information technology services, corporate services, HR, comms, freedom of information. We take care of elections every 4 years. We have many utilities, financial planning, grant administration, procurement. We have many regional parks and community parks. I'll just highlight the regional ones, the Alberni Inlet Trail. So that goes down from the south end of Port Alberni down towards Franklin River. The Log Train Trail, the regional district portion is from Cherry Creek to the Beaufort electoral area. And then the West Coast Multi-Use Path. This is on the West Coast, obviously. It's the portion between the District of Ucluelet and the Pacific Rim National Park. So it's a paved pathway between Ucluelet and Tofino. If you've been out there lately, you've probably seen it. A portion of Mount Arrowsmith is a regional ACRD regional park. And then China Creek is also another regional park, and we lease that to the Port Authority for their campground. And then we have many small community parks in our electoral areas. West Coast Transit. So this is a brand new service that's starting on April 2nd. This is going to provide public transit from Ucluelet, Hitatsu, all the way up to Asuesta and Taistanis, and then into Tofino. So this is an exciting service that's going to be offered on the West Coast. So this is a service that the regional district is providing. It's not a BC Transit service. So hopefully in the future, the province will engage on this service, but currently it's a regional district service. I should also mention that we do have a contract with BC Transit for transit in the Alberni Valley in the rural areas, including Handy Dart. And then one of our services is solid waste. We have the Sort and Go Center, which is the Alberni Valley landfill. We also have a transfer station in Banfield. We manage the 3rd Avenue Recycle Depot. We have a landfill on the West Coast. We also provide recycling pickup to Beaver Creek. And we also provide 3-stream recycling organics and garbage to Long Beach electoral area, Tofino and Ucluelet. The regional district has 2 airports, one in Long Beach and the Alberni Valley Regional Airport. Long Beach has a scheduled air service, whereas the Alberni Valley is more of a regional airport without scheduled service, but there's a large aerospace agency, not aerospace, aviation, thank you. Aviation, as well as small private hangars, that type of thing at that airport. Our planning department looks after our 6 official community plans. So there's one for each electoral area. They take care of the zoning bylaw. They do all the planning applications. They have a large agriculture focus. They manage our GIS system. They take care of building inspection as well as bylaw enforcement. We also provide emergency management to our 6 electoral areas, as well as the city of Port Alberni. And we have 4 water systems. So we provide water to Beaver Creek, Banfield, the Long Beach Airport, and the Millstream area, which is the rural area outside of Ucluelet. And then we have a lot of volunteers that we do need to recognize. We have 3 volunteer fire departments. So one in Banfield, one in Beaver Creek, and one in Sprout Lake. We have about 15 different committees. Some of them are listed here. Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee. We have a planning commission in each electoral area. We have 2 parks commissions. We have 2 airport advisory commissions. We now have the accessibility committee, as well as the Salmon Beach committee. And that is it for me. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And any questions for Heather? Nope. And online, any questions? I forgot about you guys up there. Nope. Okay. Seeing none, let's go up. Just a quick question to the committee. Does anybody want a copy of the presentations? You're okay? Everybody's good? Okay, just making sure. Okay. So now we're going to go to left turn, right turn, and the project overview of assist. And who's going to start up there?
I just wonder, I know that you said that there's going to be a break scheduled. I just wondering if you want to take that break now and then resume with us, or if you want us to keep going.
Let me ask. Anybody want to take a break?
Yeah, I think we could just stop for 5 minutes or so and to have a coffee and a snack and a bathroom break.
Well, I guess we're taking a break. Okay, 5 minutes, guys. Okay, everybody, we're a little over 5 minutes, but that's okay. So let's carry on. Everybody's got their little snacks and coffees. Okay, so next we'll turn it over to the left hand, right hand, and left turn, right turn, left hand, right turn. I'm sure you've heard that before, right?
Lots of variations of it for sure. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the quick break. We just generally want to, it's one of those accessibility best practices around giving people the opportunity to pause, take a moment if they need it, their bodies or their minds. So appreciate you doing that. So we're going to go through this. We'll quickly reintroduce ourselves. I know we already done this. We're going to then go through what we're doing with the regional district and the city to kind of overview how we're approaching this, our ultimate goals, and how we're going to do that. What we're hoping to get from the committee through this endeavor of accessibility planning, our next steps in some consultations, and then to both answer any questions as well as we might ask to take the opportunity to get some thoughts from you folks as well. So you've already heard who we are, but our project team right now is myself, Haley, and Kayla, and of course all three of us have introduced ourselves, so I'll just keep going. We do make a deliberate effort to make sure that our team is reflective of the community, of people with disabilities, and more broadly, so just to note that includes lots of different disabilities, both of the three of us and those experiences, but also the broader team to make sure that we are really centering that lived experience, which of course this committee is also centering those voices and perspectives, but we really think that's incredibly important in all of this work. To give you a sense of what we do more broadly, so the very first one is kind of what we're doing right here, which is supporting around accessibility planning, coming up with how do we have one cohesive conversation and set one cohesive plan to improve accessibility. Often, I'd say that our clients, those conversations are starting from some kind of legislation like the Accessible BC Act, but then going really well beyond that and thinking through more meaningfully, what does this mean to be improving accessibility for the community? So even if the legislation is the instigator for the conversation, it's not the thing that's ending there. It's not the full purpose of that. And then through that, we're both kind of taking the first role.
Sarah?
Yeah.
You sound like you're in a bubble. Can everybody understand you?
I'm in a bubble.
You're muffling out at times. So
okay. I will see if I can fix that. If not, Haley will take over for me. Did that audio get any better right now? Or is it the same?
I don't think so.
Okay, Haley, I'm going to pass things over to you because I don't know that my audio is going to get any better.
Absolutely. Here's hoping that my audio is okay. So let's confirm that. First of all, is my audio clear enough?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Okay. So to continue on with what Kara was saying, so in terms of following legal compliance, we talk about that being the floor and not the ceiling, meaning that that's the bare minimum that we need to do. And we want to ensure, just for compliance reasons, that we're helping our clients, including the municipality and the region, achieve what they need to do as set out in the legislation. But that's really a conversation starter to talk about how we can build capacity across organizations that we support to become accessible overall, longer term, and increasingly so over time. And so we help organizations do that, not just through the planning process, but through an assessment process as well. So part of our work that we're doing right now with the municipality and the region is just looking at internal processes and infrastructure and other elements of the services that the region and the municipality provide to determine where kind of the highest priority barriers are. So those are barriers that either have the biggest impact to people with disabilities in the community, or those things that can be easily and practically changed in the short term. So we take a very pragmatic approach to accessibility improvements, which isn't to say that we don't aim higher, but of course we're realistic about the resource allocation to take on these projects. They require time, they require money, expertise, people. And so we try to determine what are the most effective and reasonable changes that can take place in the short term, and then help build capacity to make more improvements in the longer term. So related to that, we also work with, doing policy, program, and process analysis. So figuring out how services that an organization provides or policies that they hold internally, how those may or may not facilitate accessibility, or on the other hand, create barriers, and then helping to identify areas for improvement. We also work doing knowledge translation and change management. So this is kind of our bread and butter. We live it, we breathe it both professionally and personally. But accessibility and making things accessible is not as familiar to other people. And so we don't want to just make recommendations to clients and walk away and say, there you go, this is the work that you have to do. But really working on translating those recommendations into actionable items that they can understand and implement. And change management is a big part of that process, because if we're asking somebody to invest a lot of time and resources into making something more accessible, we want to make sure that that process feels organic, well supported, that it has the right people kind of at the helm doing that work. And so we often work with project teams on initial accessibility planning, but it's important to develop those relationships and to identify internal stakeholders who can actually action the change and the recommendations that we make. So part of that also includes disability awareness and accessibility training. Something else we offer for our clients is helping people across the organization to understand what we mean when we talk about accessibility and barriers, that it's not just ramps and push buttons, but that it's a whole culture of accessibility that goes from employment policies and practices to cultural awareness and organization to communications practices and the tools and devices that people use to do their jobs. And then finally, something else we're heavily engaged in is consultations and public engagement. So we help clients develop relationships internally with their staff members with disabilities, but also with the communities and customers that they serve. And one of the things that we are able to do through the relationship building we've done over time is connect our clients to the right stakeholders. As people with disabilities, we're connected to individual kind of and personal networks of people with disabilities that we consider, our allies, our friends, but also wider disability organizations that we know to be doing good work. And so that's kind of an overview of who we are and what we do and what we're bringing to the table. So here are just some of the many clients that we have worked with. So you'll see on here that we've worked with transportation agencies, couriers, we've worked with crown corporations, smaller and bigger entities. We've worked in the area of education for municipal services, financial institutions. So kind of the whole gamut. And at the end of the day, although all of our clients provide different services, the sort of nuts and bolts of how they get to where they need to be on their accessibility journey is similar and familiar to us. Next slide, please. Thanks. So even though we are coming to you live from Southern Ontario currently, we do have both staff members across the country as well as clients across the country. And so we have the privilege of traveling kind of coast to coast in Canada, learning about not only the regions and the organizations that are there, but of course, versing ourselves in the relevant legislation and policy to those individual provinces. So we've been doing a lot of work in BC recently, and we're so pleased to have been welcomed into the community to visit the spaces that we've been assessing. Next slide. And so in terms of accessibility planning and progress reporting, that's something we've done a lot. Federal accessibility legislation was passed in 2019 that required certain federally regulated organizations and entities to develop and publish accessibility plans starting in 2022. And so a lot of clients were relying on us to figure out, hey, this is a new process. What does it mean to build an accessibility plan? How are we legislatively compliant? But also, what does it mean for us as an organization? Who should be driving the work? Which areas should we be focusing on? What kind of work should we be doing in the short term to prepare us to do the heavy lifting in the longer term? And so we've been helping organizations, as I said, crown corporations, federally regulated entities of, more than 100 people, under 100 people are just starting to prepare their plans now. And, the work that we do runs the gamut from doing internal assessments of policies, processes, documents, talking with subject matter experts within the organization, visiting offices or sites that are relevant to that location to look at the built environment, and then determining where the biggest barriers to accessibility are and making recommendations to remove them. And then ultimately helping our clients draft accessibility plans that both meet the needs of the legislation, but more importantly, that meet the needs of the organization and the people that they serve. And so we like to tell people that, we're very practical, we're pragmatic, we try not to be scary. On the other hand, we kind of know where this is going, both the legislation and the work that the organizations need to do. And so if you set the foundation and do it right now, you're going to save yourself a headache later on. So that's sort of the approach we take to our work. And so we've worked with both the Accessible Canada Act, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, and now our work with the Accessible BC Act, which is just starting to come into effect and requiring certain entities to prepare and publish these plans. Next slide. And so these are just some examples of plans that we've done. So we've completed accessibility assessments, public engagements, and the drafting of accessibility plans for more than 40 organizations. So as you saw from the previous slide, the range of organizations that we've done this work for is vast, from the Senate to couriers to financial institutions to cultural institutions, as well as municipalities and other federally regulated entities as well. So we know what we're talking about, let's say. Next slide. So specific to the work that we're doing here, so that's, there's our calling card, I suppose, that hopefully, kind of vets our credibility and our experience. But right now, what we're working on specifically with the municipality and the region is developing two separate accessibility plans. So both have a legislative obligation to prepare and publish these plans under the Accessible BC Act, but as distinct entities that are sort of working together towards common goals, they each need to publish a separate accessibility plan. And so we've talked with them and determined that what these plans are going to focus on is first and foremost reflecting the needs and priorities of community members. So our FaceTime with you here today is really important. We thank you for welcoming us to this first committee meeting, because we want to hear from you about what those priorities are and how to reach community members to ask for additional feedback. The plans will be specific to the region and the municipality, but they will inform one another, because there's shared interests there, shared interests and opportunities. And we understand that borders are things that are created artificially, but people don't live according to borders, that you recreate, work, and play kind of among the boundaries of your communities. Of course, the plans will meet the Accessible BC Act obligations as well as best practices. And then, as I've mentioned several times, these plans will hopefully provide a pragmatic and principled path to improve accessibility. And so identifying areas of greatest need and greatest opportunity for improvement. And go ahead with the next slide. So in terms of your role in accessibility planning, as was mentioned at the start of this meeting, we're looking for your perspectives. We're looking for advice. So it's an advisory function to point us and the municipality and region in the right direction of what is most important to you in terms of accessibility, barriers that you've faced in your communities that have the most impact on you. We're also looking today to chat with you about recommendations around effective and strategic consultations with the public. So we'll say a little bit more about that in a moment when we kind of open it up to question and answers. But right now for this particular project, we have the opportunity to consult with the committee, but we're also going to be distributing a public survey for anybody that's open to the public to take to give feedback on accessibility. And so that could be personal and lived experience with barriers, barriers that you've experienced as perhaps a service provider, somebody who has an active role in accessibility and disability in the community, or as a friend or family member of somebody with a disability with whom you've spent a lot of time and noticed barriers that they have. And so we would love to hear your feedback about maybe some types of questions or areas that we should focus on when asking these questions, and even just ideas around drafting the surveys. So I know there's a representative on the committee from Community Living. Community Living predominantly serves people with intellectual disabilities, is my understanding. And so, just even making sure the language in the survey is accessible, easy to read, and easy to respond to. We'll also be looking for input on who we can reach out to. So again, there are some stakeholder organizations on the committee today. So I hope that you'll, once it's drafted and complete and ready for distribution, I hope you'll share our survey with your stakeholders and within your organization. But you may have recommendations for other organizations that we should be connecting with. And then finally, you will be reviewing and providing feedback on the draft accessibility plans. So we'll be building those together over the course of this project, and the region and the municipality will help us to share those draft plans with you to make sure that we quote unquote got it right, that we took that feedback and translated it into realistic, actionable items that are a high priority over the next 3 years. So I just do want to reiterate, I think it was mentioned at the top of the presentation, but the accessibility plans that we're describing today have a 3-year lifespan, and then they are revisited, and new drafts are made every 3 years to keep up with the work that's been done and new areas of opportunity that have been identified. So as much as we would love to wave a magic wand and have this be kind of the ultimate accessibility plan that fixes everything, we're really looking for, kind of a 3-year chunk of, short, medium, and longer term plans up to 3 years for the region and the municipality to make. So that's how we see your role in this, kind of a collaborative advisory role on just being the compass, so to speak, for the work that we're doing and making sure we're oriented in the right direction and focusing on the right things. And go ahead for the next slide is great, thanks. So the next steps in the consultation process are partially this meeting today, so we can gather some of your feedback from the survey that we're working on drafting. We can compile a list of service and advocacy organizations, so we're happy to take your suggestions now and jot them down, but you can also share your list with Heather and Donna, who can communicate it with us. And then we will be drafting and sending out the public survey in coordination with the region and the municipality. And then next we'll be doing another meeting in April, where we kind of give you a lay of the land of what happened with the survey, where it went. We won't be finished analyzing the data in it yet, but we can maybe share some initial thoughts and feedback, and then just reconvene to get a greater level of input essentially on the draft plans as they take shape. So those are kind of the next steps that we're undertaking. And as much as we've spent this time talking at you, ideally the purpose of this committee today and moving forward is to gather feedback and hear your input. So your voices are the most important in this work that we're doing, and we would love to open the floor for a question and answer period. I'm not sure exactly the flow this is going to take. We're going to kind of wing it and see how it goes, because as I said, we do have some specific questions and feedback we'd like to get from you before today's meeting is done. But I think first I'd like to open up the floor to the committee if you have any questions about us or the work that we're doing. So we'll start there. Questions for us before we have more questions for you.
Thank you, Haley and Kara. Questions? Anybody have any questions? Yep, go right ahead.
I just had a question about this survey and the survey questions. Is that something that we're working on today? Or are we going to have some time to formulate some ideas around that?
So for today, I think we are sort of putting the word out. Certainly, if you have first thoughts on feedback, we would love to hear it today and take that feedback. I want to be careful about respecting the committee's time and the bounds of the work that you do. And so, certainly, ideally, it would be great if you had time to, take away some thoughts and share your feedback. But I'm actually going to just turn it over to, I don't know if the chair wants to take this question. I guess my concern is I don't want to assign homework to you outside of your functions and responsibilities to the committee. So maybe the chair would like to address.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
I was going to, I hope there was no men here. Okay, so maybe we have to do a round table and ask each person. I think that would help a little more. I just would like to know, first of all, does the ACRD and the city, I can't remember, have an accessibility plan or policy in place at this moment?
So for the regional district, no, we don't have a policy and we don't have a plan. So we're legally obligated to have a plan as of last September. So we're late, but we're here.
Through the chair, the city of Port Alberni doesn't currently have a policy adopted either.
Well, I guess we're going to change that eventually. So the other thing too is, I'm just gonna bring this up, everybody, just so, we talk about that we have to comply eventually with the, yes, the Accessible BC Act, but not everybody knows what that is. And if it's a large document, maybe we can have it sent out to each member of the committee so they can have some knowledge of what the whole picture looks like. We have our own ideas here in our community, but it would be really great to have that understanding. And that probably might be part of the homework eventually down the road. So let's just go around the room. So the question you would like to know, let's be very clear on the question. But I do want to know one other thing. Talk is cheap, but action is better. And I'm, you know, the type of person that likes to, I have no problem talking about it, but I'd like to see results at the end of the day. And we can do all the studies and consultations and everything. And if we don't do anything, we're just doing circles. So my other question is to the ACRD and the city of Port Alberni. Are there, and to yourselves up there, are there any grants out there to help communities to move forward? You know, like, I mean, it's going to be a costly venture, and through policy and through our building and stuff like that, we can add all those things. But is there any grants that we can help with any construction or anything like that we have to do?
Yes, there's definitely grants there. One key component is that we need the accessibility plan to be able to apply for those grants. So we're hoping that we will have an adopted accessibility plan by July at the latest, so that we can start pursuing those grant opportunities. We were able to access a funding through the Disability Alliance BC for this project in particular. So we were able to access $10,000 to support hiring our consultant for this project. So there's definitely funding there. Yeah, yes.
And okay. So your one of your questions you asked is the priorities of the committee. Is that what you would like to know at this moment?
Sure. I think a clear framing of the question is based on your experience and the networks that you connect with. What features or questions would you like to see in a survey about accessibility that would be shared with the community?
All right, let's do around the room, and we'll start with Janie.
Way to put me on the spot. You know, I think we need to cast a wide net to get like a lot of information from people about what it is that they see as like barriers in the community. I'm personally fairly new to the community. I've only been here about 3 years. So I don't really have a concise answer to what it is I think at this point. I just think that, you know, we need to be broad in what it is we're asking people, but also very specific about what it is that they would hope to see in the next 3 years come out of an accessibility committee and our recommendations.
All right, and the other question, I'm just going to add to that because I have written down reach out to others and recommending. So you had asked about that. Who else should we have at the table? Is there anybody you want to add to the table? Are we missing something?
Nothing at this time. If I come up with something, I will put my hand up.
Super. Okay, Donna, we're going to come back to you and to staff because I really would like staff input. And let's go over to Rainey. Okay.
I am with the rest. We just need some broad questions. Like I really agree, and I'm a little overwhelmed with info at the moment. Just need a little time, and I'd like to read the BC Act.
Nicole?
Though I can't, I mean, I can think broadly of the areas, and they are in our terms of reference. There's one area that's not really mentioned in the accessibility, and that's around attitudinal barriers for folks that, you know, there's a lot of attitudinal barriers. So I think that that needs to be addressed in the accessibility plan, and that's both silent in our terms of reference and maybe hasn't been thought of in survey questions. I'm happy to walk away. I sometimes do my best thinking if I get a little bit of time to sit with it, but I would be happy to give some feedback into ideas around survey questions. Like I had said, I've been part of accessibility planning in our own organization, and I can look at some examples that I'd be happy to share with this committee. I'm just wondering what the timeline is to get that information back. I'm okay with the homework. I just need to know by when do you need it?
We're hoping to launch the survey next week. So preferably by the end of the day, Friday would be the latest. Yeah.
And if I may, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
Okay,
I'm
I
sorry.
was just going to say, so who are we sending the information to? Who would the information go to?
Yeah, I think if everything just flows through me, then I can share that with our consultant.
Haley, was that
Something-
you? Wanted to talk?
Yes. I was just going to say something that might be helpful. I know it is a bit overwhelming to put everyone on the spot. So maybe think about if you have been involved in consultations in the past, if you've been involved in accessibility planning, or just as a member of the community, who tends to get left out of these conversations? Who do the surveys not reach? Why don't they reach those people? Maybe that's something that would be helpful for us to understand as well. So maybe the surveys are too long. The wording is too complex. They're flowing through information channels that only certain people have access to. So if that feels a little bit more focused of a question, we would love to hear feedback on that as well. Just making sure that we're both creating a survey that is accessible, but also distributing the survey in a way that is accessible. If there are thoughts around that.
Great, thank you. And Amber.
That helps with clarification. I think a lot of voices of youth often get left out, and elders. And then when you think of accessibility, it's not just like the physical accessibility in communities, but also like the emotional energy it takes, or the mental energy it takes to access services, or trying to navigate, like, can I get into this space and doing the research ahead of time? And if that information is not on Googleable and you have to go out, like, that just takes a lot of energy. So questions around like how much energy it takes to go into your community and to go and access services. And then for distributing, going out to the member nation, so whether it's like to the tribal council or just directly to the nation, I think that would be important.
Thank you, Amber. And Helen, do you have any input on accessibility? Mm-hmm. We'll go. Oh.
Oh, sure.
We'll make sure everybody gets a copy of the presentation. Okay, I'm just going to go to Heather, your comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the organizations that we reached out to when we were putting together the accessibility committee. I'm going to list them because I think it's important for you to hear who we engaged with originally, because we would also engage with these folks when the survey is ready. So I would let them know. So I'll just go through them and you can let me know if I've missed anyone. Alberni Clackwood Health Network, Alberni Literacy, Pacific Coast University for Workplace Health Services, Port Alberni Association for Community Living, INEO, Community Futures, all 10 First Nations in the regional district, Newtownless Tribal Council, the Sunshine Club, Canadian Mental Health Association, CUIS, Crisis Line, and Salvation Army. So I can already see, Amber, you mentioned youth being missed, and I can see that I probably missed youth in this list, but I'm not 100% sure which organization would be best.
I think ADAC is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then my only other comment was we will share the survey with this list. We will share it publicly, like on our website and our social medias accounts. We will also offer to do the survey with folks online if they have visual impairment or they just need support in filling out the application. So myself and Kristen can do that over the phone. So if you're willing to help us share the survey and just throw it out there that we'd be willing to help people do that would be helpful.
I think another person group that you might have missed, I would send school district as well as the White Cane would be part of that organization. Yes. And I'm just going to go to Donna, and then I'm going to go back online to the people online. Donna?
I'm just thinking about the questions in the survey, and I wonder if it would be a good idea to have the consultant draft up a list of questions. I mean, they have a lot of experience already with some of the clients they've been with, so I wonder if there should be a draft list of questions. It's always hard when you're trying to do something quickly, so I'm thinking about if it's supposed to go out next week. It could be very difficult to hear back from everybody with that quick turnaround, but it seems to me that a starting point would be draft list of questions and that maybe people could add to.
I would concur with that. Everybody agree with that? And if you have anything else, if you have questions right now that you want to propose, pass it on to Heather. And, okay, and let's go online. Who do I pick on first up there? Kara.
I suspect I'm still in a bubble. I think it's Deanna and Vida that I'd really want to make sure we're hearing from.
You are still in a bubble. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go Deanna.
Just from my personal experience with having to use a wheelchair and stuff, there's a lot of places around our town that are not accessible. Sidewalks, getting into buildings, washrooms in some of the establishments. I know that we're talking about, you know, our city and stuff, but are we also looking at accessibility for the trails and stuff, or is this just specifically for buildings?
Yes, it includes parks and trails, any service that the regional district or the city provides. So yes, that would be applicable.
Okay, perfect. Because I know that I don't think I've ever been in any of our trails, and I know how important being outdoors and in nature is for people, especially people with disabilities, because along with the physical stuff, there's the mental health stuff. You know, I have two boys at home that I can't get out to do a lot of stuff with. So if we're looking at everything as a whole, I think this is going to be amazing once we get going. But there's definitely a lot of, you know, things missing, ample parking, you know, those kinds of things.
All right, and I would add beaches to that. There's like Sprout Lake for a wheelchair to get down. It's sand. So there's no way, even if there's a ramp or something there that would help be accessible. And I've seen that on beaches before. So that might be included in that plan. And it doesn't have to be huge, but it should have something. So you can go and enjoy the lake and watch.
Absolutely. Sorry, Cindy, absolutely. I know that we're talking about our own, you know, our own municipality, but like I've never even taken my youngest son, who's 13 now, I've never even been able to take him to the beach because I can't get down. Like he's never been to the beach with me because I cannot get down. So if we had something in Port Alberni, like for the lakes and stuff, like you were saying, Cindy, that would be perfect.
I would agree with that. And I mean, it's in the West Coast too. There's some issues with accessibility down to that wonderful ocean that's been all over the place, you know, number one. So I would agree, accessibility there too. So yeah. Okay, thank you very much for that. And now I'm hoping I see your name right. Vida, is that correct?
Thank you. Yes, I thank you so much, Heather, for bringing forward the list of the other organizations that are dealing on a frontline basis with people who are marginalized and have disabilities. I do think that in order to get the youth voice, there are organizations through the ACA, Alberni Clayoquot Health Network, that should probably be provided with survey access. Because then I think you'll get some of the more marginalized and youth dealing with disabilities. The school district, if you deal with it at the school district level, I'm not sure that it will get down to the people that are already experiencing marginalization within the school system. So that's why I think the frontline organizations are more critical to access. So in order to so that's the school age children. The West Coast Women's Resources Society deals with frontline workers that are providing support in the West Coast communities. Let me see, who else did I have? So basically, I think it would be really important to have accessibility to the survey provided at any facilities or organizations that provide social health or recreational programs. So like the Echo Center, like the pools. Yeah, just trying to think. The college, how about the college and the Ucluelet Library? I think those would be two other places that I'd like to see have access to the survey. And just in terms of like the actual process is going to be worked out, but the actual implementation of these into providing accessibility is pretty critical, I think. So in terms of ensuring that the recommendations are implemented, I think we'll have to identify clearly which organizations can be capable of implementing those recommendations. Like, will it be Parks and Rec implementing specific ones? Will it be the schools implementing specific ones? Will it be individual stores implementing other ones? So hopefully the planners are going to give us all those answers. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to add Handy Dart, because Handy Dart picks up people who have issues with mobility and that, and it would be, or physical, and they would be a great one because they would know from just dropping people off and wheeling them up and stuff like that. So I would like to add that as I'm listening to everybody talking. Who did I miss? Okay, I think I got everybody up there basically. So does that help you? Like go ahead, Data. Do you have something else?
Sorry, I didn't mention like the mental health service providers and physicians' offices, which are another really good sort of frontline provider that will access the populations we need.
That's good. Thank you. There's a lot of senior buildings in Port Alberni, and as an example, I know one senior building whose elevator stopped, and it was going to take a few weeks to get it fixed. And I know there was some elderly people stuck in their apartments. They couldn't get, because they're on the top floor, that they couldn't get down the stairs. So that's something to look into. I mean, what is the plan there? What is in their building code? How does that all, you know, in municipalities and regional districts, anything to do with building, how unaccessible is an elevator breaking down? I know in City Hall, we didn't have an elevator, we do now. And it took a long time for us to put it in because of budget. We had to cut this, cut that. Oh no, we don't need an elevator. There's a scooter thing that will take them up the stairs, but that was horrendous to get, and then to get staff down there. So now we do have an elevator. So I mean, elevators are really important. I know in Rainbow Gardens, in their apartment, they have 2 elevators, not just one. So if that breaks down, they have another one. So there's always a backup plan. What is the backup plan? So some of these buildings that house people with disabilities, any form of disability, what is the plan? And that would be really interesting to have when new builds happen. Tell us the plan. You know, I mean, I don't know if we can do that on the municipality or regional level. There should be a plan. And escape plan B, plan whatever you want to call it. So I'm just putting that out there that it's really important. I look around our community in Port Alberni and we have a lot of issues. And some of the things on the sidewalks, like we have poles, like telephone poles or hydro poles, and you can't widen the sidewalk. There is no way, just the way the traffic flows. And I'm talking about Stamp Avenue and is it Gertrude Street, the main intersection there. I watched a wheelchair go by, and it was just really weird how that wheelchair had to get through. And then there's one lady, you see her, and she's actually walking with her wheelchair with her feet. And it worried me that, like, if I could pull over, I would, but there was just too many people behind me to help her. And so there's a lot of issues in Port Alberni. The cracked cement, when you take Consexus Dike, there was a lot of complaints about the dike and it needed repairs. So people in wheelchairs, on bikes, anything, the accessibility is not there. And when you think you're going to fall, it's a scary moment. When I think I'm going to fall, my heart just goes boom, boom because of my knees, right? I don't want to fall on steel, right? So that really worries me. So I can imagine people who really have issues going MS. I know a lot of people who have MS, and that's scary to go on those sidewalks and you think you're going to tip and fall. And then there's also stores that have, and I'm bringing this forward because they have all their merchandise in front, and to get by the people, there's the accessibility there. There is, I mean, it's minor, but it's a big thing for somebody who's in a chair or whatever mechanism they have to get by. So also, like, we have the Key to Key project, and everybody's commenting how wide it is, but there's a reason for that. When you go into, like, I was just in Mexico, and then that they have the same kind of Key to Key project going there, and bikes are on one side and people are on the other side, but it's wide enough for anybody with any mobility issue in that. And that's same as the Key to Key project. It's the same thing, the mobility is there. So I don't know if it needs to be wider, and like how do we go with that? And so I'm rambling, so I'll stop right there. But I wanted to bring that forward. Thank you. Sorry, Haley. Yes.
Oh, no, thank you very much. So you had raised a question if it was useful feedback, and yes, absolutely. It's a great start. So we really appreciate that input. I've copied down some of the list of organizations that you've recommended and feedback on the survey. I think there's an important thing that I want to mention, which is managing expectations around what can be accomplished with this first 3-year accessibility plan. And I say this as somebody who has encountered barriers that are extremely frustrating. Right now, we have contractors working on some things in our house. My husband and I both work from home, and I've been in meetings all day, and I've had an ear to the door because the contractors have been coming to ask us a bunch of questions, and they have no customer service training on interacting with the deaf sign language using person. And so I am kind of the de facto person. And so I encounter these barriers daily in my own life. So does my family. And so I just want to say that I both acknowledge how frustrating it is, how long some of these things can take and how impactful these barriers are, while also managing expectations around these are the first accessibility plans for the city and the region. And so I think their goal would be to implement policies, strategies, processes that would make accessibility improvements easier in the future. And also that for businesses, for example, in the community, they're not managed by the region or by the municipality, but the municipalities could potentially put forward bylaws about sidewalk use where there can't be obstructions from stores. Like, that's something that's within the region's power, or the municipality's power. Or they may talk about developing relationships with the Chamber of Commerce or Better Business bureaus within the community to liaise with local businesses about the importance of accessibility for improving business practices and business health in the community. So I just kind of want to put bookends around where their authority ends and individual business responsibility begins. I think the point about we've worked with other communities on Vancouver Island, and so beach access and recreational trail access is really critical. Something that's likely to be accomplished in the short term is just first and foremost identifying which recreational facilities and sites are accessible and promoting that, making sure there's appropriate signage and that it's in community resource guides, and then making plans for future improvements. So for new capital expenditure projects or in municipal budgeting, to include accessibility as a budget line items in all future planning projects, in parks master plans, and so on and so forth. And so I just want to manage expectations to say that ideally, and I can't make a commitment for for either the region or the municipality, like ideally, all new playgrounds will have accessibility in mind. We'll have a line item in the expenditure so that they're built from the get-go with accessibility in mind, but that it's unrealistic in the next 3 years that all beaches are going to be made accessible. Should they? Do we wish that was possible? But it's more likely that they're going to start figuring out how to make beaches accessible and developing action plans, that sort of thing. So I'll let Heather and Donna chime in on that if I'm kind of capturing the spirit of where we're going with this in early days, which isn't to say that we don't want the feedback that says, please make beaches accessible. That's excellent feedback, but it's how do we translate that need into commitments over the next 3 years? Because worse than not having your ideal state achieved is not being listened to at all and not developing any kind of mechanism to actually successfully implement some of these ideas.
Heather.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything that you just said, Haley. And I think this group understands that. I think I've seen a lot of nodding heads. So I think expectations are clear that we're going to start the process. And I think there's a big commitment from the regional district and the city that this is a long-term, long-standing, it's not a project, it's just part of what we do from now on. So, yeah.
Donna, do you have any feedback? No. Okay, so are you able to put the questionnaire, the survey together with what you've heard from this committee? What's the next steps?
So I think, I'm sorry, yeah. I think we've heard useful feedback so far. I will leave it to Heather and Donna to decide if what we might share is a draft of the survey and get additional feedback on it, if we just incorporate feedback we've heard today, what they feel is the best steps in terms of dissemination. I do have one quick question though around, we've heard that we want to cast a wide net of what we're talking about, who we're talking to, but also that we need sort of specific direction in the survey for what we're talking about. So, having people who are taking the survey understand what is in or out of scope. I'm wondering if it makes sense at all to have, I'm thinking about language. I'm thinking about language complexity in the survey and how we get around making sure that the survey is specific and getting the information we need, but making sure that linguistically it's accessible to as wide a range of people as possible. So I don't know if the committee has any thoughts around that, or some of the organizations that are represented here today, if you've worked with stakeholders who have different levels of literacy and how best to reach those people and make sure that our survey is inclusive.
Anyone have any comments? Yes, go. Sorry, go right ahead, Nicole.
I think that, anything that's above, like, I'm just generally just the questions being, short and sweet, and approximately about a grade 3 reading level is what I hear to be the most at ease when it comes to how questions are asked, and not asked with a double negative, in a backward kind of way, just being very direct, and to not have a huge sliding scale. It's yes or no, and because otherwise it's too broad and it's harder to determine. So not to have such a big scale. So those would be my recommendations. And also, if there's a way, I don't know, I'm assuming there's going to be an electronic survey. If it could be that you can have it read to you so that it's audible, that people can answer if they are having difficulty there, because a lot of people need auditory questions asked, so they can't. So comprehension from reading is difficult for some folks. And I would be happy within our organization to make sure that people have support to do the survey if they need someone to sit with them and help them to do the survey.
Excellent. And also, I would like to see a little comment box afterwards, because there's times that you would say yes, but you know, there's more to that, right? So something at the bottom. Do you want to add any more thoughts down or something like that, Veda?
Thank you. That speaks exactly to what I was going to say. Can we please have an open-ended question that allows people to express, like just a question like, have you experienced inability to access social health, mental health, recreational services in your community because of a disability? And then they can identify where, when, why.
And Deanna?
I just wanted to add Alberni Valley Employment Center to that list. That's who I'm working for, and I know that they're quite accessible, but I haven't been in the office working since COVID. And so I think it would be really great to get some feedback. You know, we have a lot of different programs we run out of there, and we work with people with diverse abilities, physical, mental health, that kind of stuff. So it'd be good to get their feedback now that I'm not in the office. I can't see, like, I know we have an accessible bathroom and that kind of stuff, but it would just be good to hear from them if there's anything else that they feel that we might need.
That's a really good one. I agree with that one totally. Anybody else? Yep, Heather?
I just have a question. Haley, do you know if Let's Connect, which is the platform that we're going to use the survey on, does it read out the questions if needed? Do you know?
It should have some screen reader functionality, but I think that's something that we want to validate beforehand.
Yeah.
We've done user testing with other survey. Oh, go ahead, Kara. Yeah.
I'm going to use a different microphone, attempt to be less in a bubble. I just want to note that I do know, like, we've tested it for screen reader compatibility, and I know that it passes with that, whether it has the built-in functionality that it will read it if it doesn't have a screen reader or system. That particular question, I don't know, but if you use a screen reader regularly, such as somebody who's blind would, it does interact and is accessible to a screen.
All right, I think, anybody else have anything else to say or no? So are we good to go forward now, Haley?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so if you have any additional feedback and you're comfortable doing homework, so to speak, and you'd like to communicate through Heather, she will reach out to us and communicate with us. We're going to be co-designing and building the survey anyway, so we'll be able to incorporate that feedback. But this is very useful and helpful feedback to ensure that we're both preparing a survey that is inclusive and also know the channels to distribute the survey to make sure that the net is cast wide. So thank you from us.
Super. Vera has another question here.
Just one more. When we did some research on injuries to seniors, there was a dedicated phone line set up where the seniors could call if they had an injury and why the injury happened. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of out there, but it might be something to think about for the future for accessibility awareness. If the committee or if our committee could have a line where people can report inability to access something.
I just want to mention on our regional district website, we've actually created a form that the public can report a barrier, and it will go to the city if it's in the city, and it will come to me if it's in the regional district. So please have a look at our accessibility page on our website and share that with anybody that you might think want to report a barrier. It's very easy to use. You can attach a picture if you like, but it's like real-time feedback for the city and the regional district to take that input and start addressing things, especially if they're an immediate safety concern that we can deal with. So just please have a look at the website. I'll share the link out when I send some information later today, but I just wanted to share that.
It's a great idea, but you know what's really frustrating? There's a lot of people who don't have computers out there, and they would rather do a phone call, and you got to have both, right? And the only other thing that I don't like about those phone calls, and elderly people especially, and never mind anybody who's really disabled, to press 1 to get so and so, press 2, press 3, and I get frustrated, never mind them, and I'm going, I just want to talk to someone, right? And so that's another thing. How accessible is that, and frustrating it is for someone who's already so upset of what's happening, and then they have to press 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever number it is. Anyways, just thought I'd point that out. Okay, so if we have,
Can I just,
Yep.
Sorry. I just wanted to add that I think it's useful to note that these engagements and consultations are to some extent a never ending conversation, that we're going to do what's possible at this point in time to get you that first accessibility plan. But as Heather mentioned, we're already kind of behind schedule in terms of when those were supposed to be published. And so we're going to do what's possible at this point in time, but really largely also viewing that perfection is the enemy of the finished, the completed, and that accessibility is an ongoing journey that we're going to be constantly looking for further opportunities to have these conversations.
That's great. You know what would be really helpful, I think, for the rest of the committee is to see what an accessibility plan looks like from another community. And are we able to get a copy of something that would show a living document from somebody else? I think that would really help everybody, right? Okay.
Yep, definitely.
I can find one and share that.
Super, thank you, Heather. Okay, I think we're anything else? Let's move on. Late business. Anybody has anything else? Nope. Okay. Question period. There is nobody on the public line, I believe. Nobody's watching. Is there?
Kristen's just going to check.
Nope, there's no questions on the Zoom and no emails in the responses.
Yeah, I didn't even know we were live streaming it. So there you go. Next is, okay, we've done that. Okay. So next meeting.
Next meeting is April 9th at 10 a.m. here and online. And I just wondered, would everybody mind if we took a quick picture so that we can highlight that the accessibility committee met today for the first time? Would
We're going to do it in
okay
front of
with
the
that?
screen so we can
Yes.
get the rest of the people in. Like that would really work.
Okay, maybe we'll just gather over here. Kristen, could I ask that you take the picture? Okay.
Surprise everyone. All right, everybody had their picture taken, and a motion to adjourn. And we don't need a second on a motion on this adjournment. Okay, meeting's adjourned. Oh, dear, everybody agree to that.
Thank you, everyone.
Is it just
Thank you.
a broad sense of other